Welcome to Create an Agent in Copilot Studio. In this session, you'll see how agents can be created in Copilot Studio, what that experience looks like, and how to think about agent creation through a governance-first lens. As AI systems become more capable, they also amplify decisions and actions. That makes safety, privacy, and security foundational to how agents are designed and deployed. This training series focuses on exploring what's possible with Copilot agents without rushing into implementation. Across the enterprise, data and AI, privacy, and IT security teams are aligned to ensure agents are ethical, compliant, and secure. In the next section, we'll shift from concepts to demonstration. This demo highlights what it looks like to create and use an agent in Copilot Studio, focusing on practical scenarios rather than technical complexity. The goal is to show how agents can support real work while staying aligned with governance expectations. This demo shows an example agent built in Copilot Studio to summarize errors from Excel files. Each morning, the agent analyzes new spreadsheet files in a specific folder, identifies errors, and compiles them into a structured table. That summary is then emailed to a defined recipient. This scenario demonstrates how agents can combine knowledge, automation, and communication into a single workflow.
Okay, so now we're going to show you some agents that are built within your environment and walk you through some of the components. And so, as you can see, we're in Copilot Studio. And so this is a standalone app different from Studio Lite, which is essentially the agent builder portion of Copilot Chat. So as you can see in my home view, here are some agents that I have recently been working with. Yours will be different because you won't have access to my agents. These are agents that I have personally built, and so I can go in and work with these agents. So for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you the error summary bot and walk you through the components of what are in the error summary bot. So I'm going to click here, and it's going to pull up my error summary bot, and we'll walk through and tie back to the core components that we brought up in the training earlier. So on this first screen, you're going to see an overview of what the agent can do, and it has every one of the sections that we talked about over today's training and the previous training. And then up on the top navigation, you can see a breakdown of the specific sections. On the right panel, you've got the ability to test your agent. And so we'll come back to this often. So I'm going to click on the knowledge, and you can see the knowledge sources that I have provided for my agent. So this particular agent is going to look for files that were placed in a folder on a Teams channel. Now, if you didn't know, all Teams channels have a back-end SharePoint site that essentially is the file storage mechanism. So that's why you see it says type SharePoint. So the demo files folder is a Teams folder in a channel that was set up so I could use the folder to deposit the files that the agent is going to go look for and then summarize the data in those files. So if I wanted to add additional knowledge sources, I could click here, add knowledge. And then here is what I have access to. Now, what I have access to will differ slightly than what you have access to because this is all permissions based. So I can search for something specific that I have access to if I have a folder that I want to look for, or I can start within SharePoint and then I start to look for what do I have access to, and it'll go through and show me some different things that I have access to. Like I said, this particular one is in, I'm not sure what folder it is in. One of these folders I have the demo files in, but you can go to any SharePoint that you have access to and link that to your agent. And then the agent now has a source of where it should go look for things. So in my instructions, I just need to make sure that I tell the agent to only look in this folder. All right, so now we're going to go to tools. So in the tools, for this particular agent, and this is an advanced feature within Copilot Studio, you have the ability to add different connectors that add additional functionality. In Copilot Studio Lite, you don't have these capabilities. You just have the standard functions that are available, and it's limited because it's supposed to be a simple agent that does simple tasks, versus Studio gives you a more robust opportunity to add some amazing different functionality to your thing. So in this particular bot, I want it to send me an email with a summary. This was a conversation we had with a team that wanted to, they get error reports. And so they want to be able to quickly know what errors are in the report and potentially some remediation steps. And so this particular agent is going to send an email. And so what I've done is I've configured the tool to use a built-in connector to Outlook to send an email. And so you'll see that it sends an email using my credentials. And this is important because without having permissions to do this, the agent's not going to do anything. And so I have the capability of sending emails, so it's going to use that to send my agent. Within my connector, I have to supply it necessary information. So if you think about an email, you have to have a to, a subject, and a body. And so it's going to fill out these things for me, or I can default a version in here. So as you can see here in the fill using, I have dynamically fill. I could also choose customize. Then in completion, I don't have any sort of completion step really. What this is for the activity tab, and we'll look at that here in a second. But really this covers letting me know that the final outcome has been completed. And so this is a tool. So we'll go back to the tools section so you can see what that looks like from if I wanted to add a tool. So in previous trainings, there were a lot of questions about, can it connect to platform X, platform Y? And so you can see that Copilot Studio has access to several connectors, but it doesn't have access to certain external or other vendor applications. This is an enhanced feature that can be updated. You can build custom connectors, but you would need to work with your IT teams to get that built out for you. But as you can see, anything that's Office 365 has access to. I can connect it to Teams, and then when I hit this Teams one, it's going to give me a full list of all of the capabilities it currently possesses to use Teams. I can create a team, I can create a chat, things like that. Within Outlook, I've already used the send an email one as part of my agent, but you can see here, you could pick to send an email. You can tell it to do all of these various things within the agent configuration. So we'll back out of that. So again, my agent here is going to send an email, and the trigger, I have to give it instructions on what to use for the trigger. So you'll see that here in a second. Okay, so now agents. Now, let's say, for instance, you are building out a suite of tools for your department. You could configure an agent to connect to other agents. So one agent does task A, agent B does the next task, and so on and so forth. So if I had additional agents that I wanted to configure here, I could hit add, and it'll give me access to the ability to add additional agents to it. So for this particular, there's not any additional agents that I want to add, but you have that capability. Topics. So this is the conversation flow of working with the agent. So during the activity, and you'll see that here when I go to test this, the agent will work through these different topics, and as it runs into a roadblock, it'll figure out the deviation path of what it's supposed to take. So here you can see goodbye, greeting, start over, thank you. So these are what the responses I'll see as it's working through the activity. The activity tab will show you as your agent is doing this. This is how you're able to verify whether or not your agent is successful. And so you'll see this live here in a second, but you can see some of the activity, whether a task was completed, if it failed, and be able to dig into why it failed. So for instance, we'll look at this particular activity here, and you can see that it ran into an error, and the error was the connector had an issue. So it didn't have something that it needed in order to continue to the next step. I'm going to go back, and so this one was completed. So we'll go look at this one, and you'll see that it made it through. So it got to the trigger step of, in this particular instance, the issue was my credentials. It needed my credentials to be able to complete the activity. So it eventually got through the activity and gave me a completed activity response. So that's activity. So analytics. Now, here is where your agent builders are really going to see the value. So as you build an agent and it's published and you start allowing other users to go in, you'll be able to check it, and you need to monitor. This is a part of the monitor and refining steps of your plan of going in and seeing, okay, how many times was it successful? How many times did it fail? And being able to go back and monitor and make refinements to your agent. Because obviously you want to build an agent that's going to be successful 100% of the time, and you want your users to be able to get the value out of it. And so this is where you're going to find some information related to that. So, and then your channels tab is going to show you where this is going to be shared. And so right now it's not shared with anyone. I might have shared it to one other person, maybe Sarah. But you'll get some information about the channels and how this is being accessed. So we'll go back to overview so you can see the instructions and what we talked about. So here in my instructions, you can see that I've advised the agent, I only want to look at the Excel files because this file folder has PowerPoints, Word documents, but I only want it to look at the XLS files. And I only want it to be located in this demo files folder because I have access to a lot of different SharePoints, but I only want it to look in this folder. And then I instructed it, I want it to summarize the data from the file and then provide me the output in a table format. And here are the columns that I want to see. I'm only looking for errors in the current month. So there's logic there that has to be run to say, this is the errors for this month. After processing the file, it's going to send an email to my proficient email. This is a secondary step, and this is just so I can make sure that everything is working the way that I want it to work. You would want to configure this to your NRG email, and I'll give you some examples of the emails that I receive so you can see some of the files. And then I'll actually just try to drop a file and see if I can get it to run while we're here to show you a file. So again, it's further instruction. So as we talked about prompting, this is the prompt. And you can see that it's taken me several different commands to get it to a point where the agent is doing what I feel like it should be doing. It wasn't one initial prompt solve the day. It was, I started with a summarize this file. I needed to then learn to teach the agent to exclude other files. I needed to then tell it some parameters on the values, the formatting, the only pick the new files, don't explicit instructions of not going outside of the process file folder, and then following its own logic as far as best practices when it comes to data handling. So again, here are the instructions, and so we'll take a look and see if we can get it to run. Okay, so I am going to open up I have a folder where I just have these random error report files for demo purposes, and I'm going to go to Teams so you can see this. And so in my channels, under General and Shared, I have this demo files folder. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and you can see there's a bunch of just stuff, and there's periodic error report files. So I'm going to add in the next error report file. So it's going to be error report 3. All right, so now the file is uploaded, and so that tells the agent, go do your activity. And in a few moments, we will get that output. And so I'm going to show you in the meantime an example of one of the outputs that I got. So you can see this email came from my NRG email. And here are here's the body information that I wanted to have. The error report. I ran the error report this morning, so you can see it's got the date the error report was run, and then it's got a breakdown in a table format like I asked of the errors, and it's following my instructions of give me the error number, description, count, range, and remediation steps. And then it leads out with if you have questions, call the help desk to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. As we go back into my agent, you can see I have these instructions. At the bottom of the email, put, if you have questions, please call this. Good morning. The following summary was pulled from. Put the name of the file. So all of these things are possible within Copilot Studio, and they just should open up an opportunity for you to get creative in thinking about what is a process that we currently do today that I could make my life so much easier if I automated some of the steps. It's not supposed to solve all the problems. This doesn't replace you. All this does is it provides an opportunity for some automation to make your job easier and more effective. So, all right, so here's that new report. So again, error report number 3. Here's a list of the errors. And here's an additional message from Copilot letting me know why it included additional data. So again, thank you.
When creating agents, it's important to start simple and expand over time. Begin with focused, well-defined scenarios and pilot them with real users. Test frequently, analyze usage, and refine your agent based on feedback. Leverage existing content whenever possible, and always plan for escalation and fallback paths. These practices help ensure agents remain effective, trustworthy, and sustainable. Now that you've explored a real-world scenario, your next step is to start identifying ideas where agents can safely add value in your own work.